feels like to have clean water. So this kind of new.
Tonight at the headwaters of the Freedom Road, clean drinking water on tap for the people of Shoal Lake number 40.
Someone on Twitter commented that they can't go anywhere in the riding without seeing our people, and they have no idea where the Conservatives and the Liberals are.
A relative newcomer to politics tries for an upset in a long-time Liberal stronghold.
Everybody has to vote. That's the only way that governments and democracy works.
And we don't care who you vote for. Chiefs in Manitoba encourage band members to head for the polls. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. A small community in Ontario is celebrating the opening of a new water treatment plant, ending a boil water advisory and giving hope to the people living there. Michelle Karlinzig has the story of Shoal Lake 40 First Nations' journey to clean drinking water.
Cheers.
Leaders from Shoal Lake 40 clinked together their glasses in celebration, taking a sip of clean drinking water from their taps for the first time in a quarter of a century. A new water treatment facility will bring clean water to around 300 people, ending a 24-year boil water advisory.
It's about that time. We struggled for over 20 years with boiled water deliveries, and the reality of the project coming to an end is surreal. This should, like we said earlier, it should never happen.
Yesterday, they celebrated the opening of a $29 million water facility, which was funded by the federal government. The community, which sits on the border of Ontario and Manitoba, has grappled with basic human rights for 100 years. It started after an aqueduct was built to transport clean drinking water to the city of Winnipeg in 1919. It cut Shoal Lake 40's access to land and drinking water. Residents have protested and fought for proper road access over the years. And finally, 2 years ago, they welcomed Freedom Road, a year-round path to the Trans-Canada Highway. With Freedom Road and lifting their boil water advisories, Chief Red Sky says the community can start to move forward.
We still need to do some more catch-up on some of the stuff that we're far behind in. This is just the beginning.
Siobhan Green grew up in Shoal Lake 40 and is looking forward to that first sip. She hauled water all through her pregnancy with her daughter Talia and after she was born.
I don't know what it feels like to have clean water. So this is kind of new, and I'm just like, oh, my throat. So this is new, and it's new for my daughter.
After a sunrise ceremony, Green took some tobacco down to the shores of her home. She says it's a new world for her daughter and the generations to come. Michelle Karlinzig, APTN National News, Shoal Lake 40.
Great to see the community finally getting water. A grassroots group of First Nations women in northern BC alerted their communities of a convicted sexual predator working in an industrial camp. Their post led to a response from LNG Canada, allegedly terminating and removing the person of concern from the work site. The matriarchs in training posted on social media that violent offender Curtis Sagmoin was working in Kitimat at LNG Canada's camp. In 2017, Sagmoin was found guilty of violent offences against sex trade workers in BC. A business in Kitimat Mall was spray painted in protest. Yesterday, in a news release, LNG Canada did not name Sagmoin, but announced the removal of a person of concern from the worksite and community, and are now reviewing hiring processes.
That social media push and the pressure that came from that, I certainly wasn't expecting it to go as far and as fast as it did, which is it's great to see that it did, and that people took it seriously, and that the company was forced to enact some kind of response to it.
First Nations leaders in Manitoba held a virtual town hall this week to discuss the upcoming federal election and encourage people to get out and vote. With more on what was discussed and the priorities they see, here's Daryl Stranger.
We are just days away from the federal election, and final discussions are being made leading up to Election Day on September 20th. First Nations leaders in Manitoba held a virtual town hall to discuss issues important to First Nations people in the province and why their vote is important.
Everybody has to vote. That's the only way that governments and democracy works. Democracy only works when the people are engaged. You have to stand up and get engaged. You have to tune in. You have to pay attention. I know it gets cumbersome. And I know some feel that change doesn't happen quick enough. But we need you to continue to push forward, regardless. We have to continue to push forward and be examples for the rest of the country.
Topics discussed included the need for more housing, better health care, and greater connectivity in First Nations communities.
One thing that I want to encourage all political parties, there's many things. I can list you so many things. But one of it for Manitoba First Nations for sure is the connectivity, connecting our communities to the internet. And I hear time and time again, every time I talk to different communities, they don't have it, or it's slow, or there's so much stuff that we need. But one of them is connectivity.
In the 2015 federal election, voter turnout spiked thanks to initiatives like Rock the Vote. Leaders are hoping this election is more of the same in terms of the voter turnout among First Nations people.
If we don't vote, the status quo will stay the same. We will not see change until we see that our people's voice are included in these elections. And I want to remind our relatives, get out there and vote. Like they always tell us, if you don't vote, you can't complain. And I believe that.
Daryl Stranger, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Well, are you planning to vote? We'd like to hear what you think about this federal election. Here's how you can continue the conversation. You can send your emails to news@aptn.ca or leave a comment on aptnnews.ca. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. Well, we've got much more election coverage coming up, but first, a quick break. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Labrador electoral district has historically been held by the Liberals. With this election, the Liberals are being sued by the Innu Nation. Angel Moore reports on how this is affecting the campaign there.
Labrador is home to Inuit self-governing territory of Nunatsiavut and the Innu nations Shehajik and Natuashish. They struggle with a lack of housing, healthcare, and poverty. Liberal Yvonne Jones has held the riding since 2013.
Indigenous people have been neglected in this country. Their issues, their need for infrastructure and for better services have been neglected for many, many decades. And trying to bring that together and fill that gap in 5 years is not possible.
The Innu Nation hope to fill the economic gap with compensation from the Muskrat Falls hydroelectric dam, built on Innu land. The controversial project is years behind schedule and over budget, but faced protesters who say it puts the environment at risk. Last July, Trudeau promised over $2 billion to bail out the project so the province could keep electricity rates low. The Innu Nation say they were not consulted and their benefits agreement is at risk and filed a lawsuit against the Liberals to stop the deal. Amy Norman is a Nook. She protested against Muskrat Falls, faced charges in court, and was banned from Parliament. But she's the NDP candidate in this election.
So it's time that we really, had another option. We vote for an actual change. We vote for an actual strong voice, someone who's used to sticking up and fighting for Indigenous rights. And that's me. I've walked the walk in terms of advocating for Indigenous peoples, and I'm here to do the same in Parliament.
Conservative candidate Shane Dumaresque owns local businesses, says he will consult with the Innu Nation.
Well, we're really, really unhappy with the stance that the Prime Minister took with the new Dawn agreement. And the people of the Innu Nation are very unhappy as well. That's why they're suing the federal government and the provincial government. and we want a new deal. They want to sit at the table and renegotiate this deal so that they get their fair share.
Jones would not comment on the lawsuit, but she did say,
anywhere in this country where we have been involved in funding agreements, services, or initiatives that have related to Indigenous governments, we have been at the table with them.
voters will decide on election night to keep the Liberal stronghold or break from tradition and elect another candidate. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Tobruk, also known as Halifax.
Turning over to Quebec now, where all eyes are on Abitibi. The Northern Quebec riding covers nearly half of the entire province and has recently been struggling with low voter turnout. But with two Indigenous candidates now stepping up to the plate, will 2021 see a long-awaited voter surge? Lindsay Richardson takes a look.
Abitibi Bay James Nunavik EU. Its name is long and its territory is vast. The riding encompasses the ancestral territories of the Naskapi, the Anishinaabe, the Cree, and the Inuit. Abitibi Bay James was put on the map in 2011 when Romeo Saganash swept the race for MP.
The future of Quebec is in this riding.
Saganash may be out of the game now, but experts say across the country, scores of new political players are making their way to the forefront.
It shows that the number is increasing and there's more awareness and a willingness to necessarily look at as participating in Canada's federal elections as a way of being able to make change. However, how far that goes and what that fully entails is another question.
After Saganash's departure, the Abitibi Bay James riding flipped from NDP stronghold to the Bloc Québécois.
Bonne journée nationale des peuples autochtones.
The incumbent candidate is Sylvie Berube, the Bloc's critic for Indigenous affairs. The party's made the promise to totally abolish the Indian Act because Berube says it's what the people want.
C'est surtout l'écoute et apprendre, et c'est les communautés qui doivent nous dire qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire pour eux et non pas nous qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire pour eux. Fait que le Bloc québécois est vraiment dans ce sens-là d'égal à égal, de nation en nation et d'être à l'écoute chacun de chacun et l'autre et aussi de savoir vers où on s'en va.
2 of the 5 federal party candidates running in Abitibi Bay James identify as First Nations. NDP candidate Pauline Lameboy hails from the Cree community of Chisasibi. Like Saganash, her focus is full implementation of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, or UNDRIP.
It's time that our voices are heard. It's time that our beliefs and our values be respected at the federal level, and that together we can make a big difference if we stand together united.
Running under the Liberal banner is Lise Kistabish, Anishinaabe from the First Nation of Pikagan. She's angling for better service delivery.
I think issues that will be brought forward, it's really the priorities of the communities, like the housing, the water, the climate changes, all the and the wellness of the communities, and also the health issues and the elders also.
Indigenous voting rates are slowly going up across Canada, but there's a chronic lag here in its 3rd largest riding, where only 40% of all eligible voters cast a vote in the last federal election. So in 2021, will the bloc be blocked? How will voter turnout turn out? Stay tuned, because the 11th hour electoral countdown is officially on. Lindsay Richardson, APTN National News, Montreal.
Thanks, Lindsay. Well, with the federal election nearing, we wanted to take a look at an Indigenous candidate who wants to represent Vancouver Centre as the next Member of Parliament and create positive change. APTN's Tina House has that story.
Breen Willett is hitting the streets campaigning. He wants to be the next NDP Member of Parliament for Vancouver Centre. It's been a stronghold for incumbent Hetty Fry from the Liberal Party since 1993. He's also up against Harry Cocknell from the Conservatives. He's a businessman and community organizer. This is the second time Willett is running for the Vancouver Centre riding. In 2019, he was nominated to run but didn't win. However, this time he says he's much more prepared and proud to be an Indigenous person who's ready to get into federal politics.
It's going really incredible. Someone on Twitter commented that they can't go anywhere in the riding without seeing our people, and they have no idea where the Conservatives and the Liberals are. And we've raised over $100,000 for the campaign, so it's just an incredible feeling.
At 44 years old, Willette, a Métis originally from Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, is a lawyer and says he has devoted his life to making change for Indigenous people. In 2016, he was appointed as one of the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls National Inquiry Commission lawyers and says that experience changed his life. He resigned in 2018, he says, so he could find better ways to make systemic changes.
We had incredible access to documents that normally don't see the light of day. And the things that are being done in the name of Canadians would horrify most people in this country. And that's why I'm running. We need people in Parliament who understand these issues and who can speak to them and address them and bring an end to them.
Freen Willette, running for the NDP in Vancouver Centre.
To get his message across, Willette and his campaign team are capitalizing on social media. He says he's gaining followers with each post, and he has big dreams for making change in the future.
I see myself still continuing the fight to end apartheid and genocide. These issues will take time to resolve, and we know from past experience that government officials will resist and they'll fight and they'll do everything they can to avoid accountability and justice for Indigenous peoples. So I'm committed to the long haul on this. I want to just keep fighting to ensure that my own children and my grandchildren will be safe and free from this type of oppression.
The federal election takes place on September the 20th, 2021. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
COVID-19 restrictions are returning to 2 prairie provinces. The details coming up after the break. Welcome back. Let's take a look now at our photo of the day. Gail French sent us this picturesque photo from the beach at Point Pelee National Park near Leamington, Ontario. Don't forget the bug spray if you visit, because Gail says the flies and mosquitoes out there are very hungry. Well, Gail, not many this year in Manitoba, the homeland of the mosquito. For the chance to be our next photo of the day, be sure to send your photos to share@aptn.ca and include details along with your photo. Let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the east coast, 23 and sunny for Charlottetown, 21 under the sun in St. John's. 18 with rain in Nain, 20 for Happy Valley Goose Bay. 27 in Montreal, 22 for Chibougamau. Showers in 23 in Sault Ste. Marie, sun's out and 25 in North Bay. A rainy 20 for Thunder Bay, 14 with showers in Sioux Lookout. 9 with rain in Churchill, 12 and showers in God's Lake. 18 for Winnipeg and Brandon, 1 degree warmer in Dauphin. 18 for Regina, Swift Current and Saskatoon. 10 in Uranium City, 13 with showers in La Ronge. Over in northern Alberta, 14 for Fort McMurray, Peace River and Grand Prairie. 20 with showers in Medicine Hat, cloudy and 18 in Lethbridge. 15 with showers for Vancouver and Victoria. 11 with rain in Prince George and Smithers. 10 in Old Crow and Whitehorse. 10 in Yellowknife, 12 for Norman Wells. +3 in Sax Harbor, 10 for Paulatuck. 7 with rain for Chesterfield and Arviette. -5 with snow in Resolute, 4 below, and snow in Joe Haven. To the pandemic now, and Alberta has declared a state of emergency because of an increase in COVID cases. Thousands of surgeries have been postponed to free up health staff, and 90% of COVID patients in ICUs are not vaccinated. What are the next steps for Alberta? Tamara Pimentel joins us from Calgary with those details.
As cases here continue to rise to well over 1,000 a day, Albertans were hit with an emergency alert Wednesday evening, declaring a state of public health emergency. I happened to be sitting in a restaurant as phones went off. Monitors switched from sporting events to the alert, advising the public that new restrictions will be in effect starting Thursday at 12:01 a.m. Alberta Premier Jason Kenney held a press conference apologizing for his government's response to the pandemic.
I know that we had all hoped this summer that we could put COVID behind us once and for all. We believed that we could prudently move away from addressing COVID as a pandemic and towards an endemic. It is now clear that we were wrong, and for that, I apologize.
So what do these new restrictions include? The province announced vaccine passports. Working from home is now mandatory unless it's necessary for employees to be at the workplace. Up to 10 fully vaccinated people can gather indoors, and indoor dining has been shut down. Those rules only apply to residents aged 12 and older. More restrictions that target businesses and events will be put into effect September 20th. Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Calgary.
Thanks, Tamara. Well, Canada's top doctor says they're continuing to monitor the COVID-19 situation out west. Dr. Theresa Tam says additional measures like masking and distancing are still required to stop the surge, and the vaccinations alone are not enough.
Getting through the next months is not going to be an easy thing. One of the equations as one needs to understand is that if measures are let go of too quickly and vaccination rates are not going up fast enough, you're going to get into a situation where this virus, the Delta virus, is very contagious. And so you're giving room for this virus to accelerate.
Dr. Tam says the acceleration of COVID-19 cases is occurring in areas where vaccination rates are low. And a similar situation in Saskatchewan today, where Premier Scott Moe is announcing a proof of vaccination system is coming to the province, as well as new restrictions. The indoor mask mandate will come into effect Friday, and the vaccination policy will follow on October 1st. In a tweet earlier today, Moe said his government will no longer be patient with those who choose to remain unvaccinated against COVID-19. Moe said more details will be provided during a news conference this afternoon. Well, that's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Thursday. For news anytime, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. That's where you'll also find all of our election coverage and much more. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you back here tomorrow.